Welcome students. Good afternoon. Today we are going to discuss about the somatic motor control system. In this, we will study step by step because to understand the reflex activity, to understand the postural uh, uh, mechanism of balance, postural reflex, tone. First of all, you need to go to the basics. So I was told to teach tone, posture, and all, but I thought without going to the basics, you won't be able to understand. So we'll have to go to some basics and let's start it. It's very important, uh, not only for your exams here in the university, but for your PG entrance examination also. In fact, in PG entrance examination, it will be more important than your university. Maybe in university you won't be asked any of such question, but if you don't understand now, you won't be able to crack the questions which comes in PG entrance examination. So you have to think of your entrance examination and not this. And this you will get through. Nothing will happen. So we are going to discuss about the somatic motor control system. Okay, somatic motor control system. So motor control system, we have we will follow this highest level of motor control, middle level of motor control, lowest motor control. But before that, let's see some basic things that we are going to discuss. So basic term. What is an effector organ? So I told you effector organ is nothing but it is a muscle which executes your motor plans. That is the effector organ. Okay, like in physical labor, walking, or any type of skill like typing, all that, gesture through speech, okay, facial movements, and everything. The effector organ here is the skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle is the effector organ, you can say. Okay, now there are terms like what is motor unit, okay, what is motor neural pool. Let's see what is motor unit. So a motor unit basically consists of single motor neuron. One second. Okay, so motor unit or neuronal pole, what do you mean by motor unit first? So when we say motor unit, it consists of single motor neuron, okay, single motor neuron, and its a specific fiber that it supplies. So a motor unit consists of this. This is a very important definition that you should know. Okay, now for a fine control, like fine control means what? The muscle of eye are very delicate and very short. They are very fine, and they control the eyeball. So these muscles movement are known as fine motor movement. So for fine control, a single motor neuron innervates only a few fiber. Okay, one motor neurons can innervate few fibers, and mark this. This is a motor unit. Motor unit, and the fiber it supplies, more than one fiber it can be. This is the motor unit. But if a larger movements are required, like postural muscle, the muscle which helps in our postural balance, okay, and the anti-gravity muscle of the back, or the thigh, anterior thigh muscles. Here what happens, the single motor neuron is there, but it innervates thousands of muscle fibers. So you can see this is a small motor unit, and the second one is a larger a larger motor unit, you can say. These both are motor unit, but again all the motor neurons for a given muscle make up a motor neuron pool. So it might occur that a muscle contains many fiber, Okay, a muscle will contain many fiber, and all these fiber can have innervation from many motor neurons. Okay, so all these motor neurons and all these muscles that the it is supplied from, that consists a motor neuronal pool of muscle. Motor neuronal pool for the muscle. So this is known as motor neuron pool. Okay. Now, the force of muscle contraction is graded by recruitment of additional motor unit. So if you want the contraction to be more strengthened, so you need to pull up more and more motor unit. The more the motor unit you recruit, and the more motor unit is involved, the strength of muscle contraction, the force of muscle contraction will be more. Okay, let's move to what is the lower motor neuron or the final common pathway. So you have to understand what is upper motor neuron and what is lower motor neuron. The upper motor neuron is nothing but a neuron that consists of nuclei that is present in the brainstem or the spinal cord. Okay, the fiber in the upper motor neurons, they arises from cerebral cortex to the spine, that is known as corticospinal tract, or in other words you can say pyramidal tracts. The upper motor neuron also consists of the fiber arising from the cerebral cortex to the brainstem, and from the brainstem to the spinal cord, that is known as corticobulbar tract. So both consist of upper motor neuron. Ultimately they have to come to the spinal cord. Okay, and it will come to the spinal cord through the anterior or the lateral descending tracts, right? Then the alpha motor neurons that is present in the anterior gray horn, this is known as the actual lower motor neuron. Okay, because all the descending fiber ultimately directly or sometime indirectly via interneurons, they will go to the anterior gray horn and they will supply the lower motor neuron, and that lower motor neuron is known as the alpha motor neuron, and they constitute the final common pathway. It is the only way through for all the motor command that has to come, be it from anywhere from the brain or the central nervous system. It has to go pass through the alpha motor neuron. That is the final common path, and that is known as lower motor neuron. So does the somatic motor activity, one second. Okay, so somatic motor activity, I mean whatever activity we do, like walking, running, any skillful activities, they all depend ultimately upon the what pattern and what is the rate of discharge from the alpha motor neuron. Okay, so whatever may be the command, okay, but that has to be, sorry for interruption. So whatever may be the command and all, the ultimate movement will depends upon what is the pattern of discharge, what is the rate of discharge in the alpha motor neuron. And this alpha motor neuron is situated in the ventral gray horn of the spinal cord. It is homologous, its homologous neuron is also situated in the motor nuclei of the cranial nerves that are present in the brainstem. So in brainstem also there are lower motor neuron, as I said, and in the spinal cord there is lower motor neuron. Okay, the fiber which comes to this lower motor neurons are known as upper motor neuron fiber. Okay, from the cerebral cortex, corticospinal tract, and the fiber which comes from cerebral cortex to the lower motor neuron of the brainstem, that is known as corticobulbar fiber. Okay, so all the descending fiber has to come to the lower motor neuron. Either it comes to the spinal cord lower motor neuron, or it comes to the brainstem lower motor neuron. And this alpha motor neuron is also known as lower motor neuron, and lower motor neuron forms the only pathway. Okay, it is the only pathway through which the signal from other parts of the nervous system reach the muscles. Therefore, lower motor neuron consists so-called, it is also known as final common pathway for the motor system. So either you call it lower motor neuron, either you call it final common pathway of motor system, either you call it alpha motor neuron, they are all the same. Okay, they are the final common pathway. Understood about this term? So terminology you have to know. Now we are again in section somatic motor. What is the actually somatic motor activity? It is nothing but it consists of voluntary movements, it consists of reflex, it consists of rhythmic motor activities, and it also consists of posture and equilibrium, maintaining the posture and equilibrium. So voluntary movements, any type of voluntary movements like typing, playing musical instrument, writing, drawing, painting, that all represents the most complex motor activity. And such movements are always, these skillful movements are always purposeful, and we initiate this at our will. Okay, this movement, typing, playing, and these all are a skillful movement, and that has got some purpose, and that will initiate at our will. These movements can improve with the repeating or training. When you repeat this motor activity, when you get trained for this motor activity, this ultimately will improve. And the attention, the voluntary attention that you have applied for the first time, and after you get trained, then that voluntary attention will be less. The first time you need to do something, like writing for the first time, you will have to apply more voluntary concentration or more voluntary attention than after you are trained for writing. Then you have to apply a very minimal voluntary attention. In other words, the motor system, we can say, it learns by doing. It learns by doing things. That will improve with repetition. And this is known as what is we call it synaptic plasticity. Synaptic plasticity is a term in which it has been seen that when you get to learn something, when you get to do a motor activity better and better, that means there are more synapse formation. Okay, and that is known as synaptic plasticity. Second type of activity that also constitutes the somatic motor activity is the reflex response. So unlike voluntary, they are more rapid than voluntary. Okay, and they are actually involuntary activities. Of course they are purposeful, but they are not under our voluntary control. Okay, and they are produced by some specific stimuli also, like specific stimuli like some nociceptive or painful stimuli. If you will give, we will have a reflex, like we will flex our hands. We will it may happen, we can go away with that stimuli, we can run away from that stimuli, and that is the withdrawal reflex. So reflex, it's not in our voluntary control, it's rapid. This also constitutes the somatic motor activity. Rhythmic motor activity, like we walk, so certain group of muscles are rhythmically they are contracting and relaxing, like doing walking, running, chewing. So they are initiated at will and terminated voluntarily. So we can initiate our walking, we can also stop our walking voluntarily, right? However, once initiated, these relatively stereotyped repetitive movements may continue in almost reflex response like pattern. So when you start walking, do you think you have to give much of your attention to your walking? No. it is always it is as if that a reflex system is acting, and you are unconscious about your walking, and you're just going to you're going walking and walking or writing something. So you're not bothered about what you're doing. It has been initiated, and it is on the run. It is in there its damacity, but it behaves like it is a reflex response like pattern is initiated at a motor neurons, somewhat like a reflex activity, but it's not a reflex actually. Okay, so it's a rhythmic motor activity. Now this posture and equilibrium maintenance also comes under the somatic motor activity. The maintenance of upright posture, that like standing, is a prerequisite. It's a very much requirement for any goal and direction oriented phasic movements. Okay, it is impossible to separate postural adjustment from voluntary movement in any rigid way. So whenever we have to do any type of movement, voluntary movement, either with the hand, walking, okay, so in any movements you have to adjust certain group of muscles, either in a contraction phase or in a relaxation phase, so that to facilitate that voluntary movements. So you cannot maintaining a posture by maintaining the tone of the muscles and the voluntary movements. You can't segregate these, you can't separate these two activities. These are mutually helped by each other. They have to be together for a goalful oriented or oriented movements. But it is possible to differentiate a series of postural reflexes that not only maintain the body in an upright balanced position, but also provide constant adjustment necessary to maintain a stable postural background for the voluntary activity. So let's move now. So we have to understand two things also. We have to understand there are two type of motor system: medial group of motor system and lateral group of motor system. Okay, medial. When we say medial, these descending tracts or these motor system are generally concerned with the axis of the body, or axial movement, or the proximal muscle movement. Axial movement means the movement that occurs in the axis of the body, the midline, and the proximal muscle is that the muscle which is near to the joint, any joint, that is known as proximal muscles. So this medial motor system is concerned with the axial movement and the proximal muscle movement. Okay, and the lateral motor system, they are involved in distal group of muscles movement. Okay, like finger, toes, these are the distal. So we can say in another way, just visualize this. Medial motor system is controlling what? Is controlling the axial system or the proximal muscle, and hence it is responsible for the maintenance of posture. While the lateral motor system, since it's control the distal muscles like finger, toes and all, so they are more involved in a skillful movement. So that's it, we have to rate. So the skeletal muscle, which are effector organ of the motor activity, have been organized into two groups. Okay, medial proximal and lateral distal. The medial proximal group comprises of axial and girdle muscle. Either you have pelvic girdle or you have shoulder girdle, whose action involves the axis and proximal limbs, right? Their activity determines posture, progression and equilibrium. So they control, the medial group of muscles control, or medial motor system controls what? Posture, progression and equilibrium. While the lateral distal group of muscles are muscle of digit and distal segment of the limb. They are responsible for some skillful voluntary movements. There exists a topographic organization in this group in the central nervous system as medial and lateral motor nervous system. Okay, so all the motor system, if I say the tract will be what? Ascending tract or descending tract? It will be a descending tract. So when we say medial motor system, it will consist of some descending tract, and that includes anterior corticospinal tract. Again, anterior corticospinal tracts, that means the fiber coming from cortex to the spinal cord anteriorly. Then there you have fiber of corticobulbar tract. Some fibers are also belongs of corticobulbar tract also belongs to the lateral system. We will study that later. But fiber of corticobulbar tract except the that belongs to the lateral system, lateral motor system. Third fiber is lateral and medial vestibulospinal tract. So from vestibular nuclei to the spinal cord, these are the lateral and medial vestibulospinal tract. We have reticulospinal tract, we have tectospinal tract. Okay, vestibulospinal, reticulospinal or tectospinal. Okay, so these are the tract along with the corticospinal and corticobulbar. These are the tract of medial motor system, and they are responsible for posture, progression and equilibrium, right? The fiber of medial motor system terminate on the motor neuron situated in the medial part of the ventral gray horn of the spinal cord. So all these fibers, that all the five tracts we have defined, and the fiber in those tracts, they ultimately go to the where medial part of the ventral gray horn. We have studied the anterior or the ventral gray horn. उसके medial part में जाते हैं via interneuron. They will always go to the first of all interneuron, then they will from the interneuron they will go to the alpha motor neuron, right? So axon of medial group of motor neuron of spinal cord supply the axial and proximal limb muscle, okay, which are concerned with the posture of the body that we have studied. The corticobulbar of the medial system, corticobulbar of the medial system, which are concerned with the posture of the body. They also supply the maintenance of posture and equilibrium. So ultimately these corticobulbar are also involved in a postural equilibrium. These fibers are also involved in movement of chewing and movement of eyebrows. Okay, so lateral motor system. Lateral motor system, phylogenetically, the lateral motor system is new. Okay, so we say that the medial motor system is old phylogenetically and lateral motor system is new. What do you mean by that? I don't know. Maybe embryologically, the when we study our evolution, that has to do something like skillful movements. They have been more organized in a higher species of animals. That must have something to do with. So not very important. But what the lateral motor system consists of? It consists of lateral corticospinal tract and not the anterior. It consists of lateral corticospinal tract, rubro from the red nucleus to the spinal cord, rubrospinal tract, and a part of that part we were discussing, the part of corticobulbar tract. So corticobulbar tract, it's present in both medial motor system and the lateral motor system also. So these three tracts are present in the lateral motor system. Fiber of the lateral motor system terminate in the motor neuron situated in the lateral part. So as like anterior motor, medial motor system, they will go to the medial part of the gray horn. In the same way, the lateral motor system will go to the lateral half of the ventral gray horn of the spinal cord directly or via interneurons, and on the equivalent motor neurons in the cranial nerve nuclei in the brainstem. Okay, axons of these motor neurons supply the muscle of digits fingers or the distal segments of the limb, and they will regulate the skilled voluntary movement, unlike the medial motor system, which regulates the posture and equilibrium. Corticobulbar fiber of the lateral system are concerned with the, like corticobulbar fiber of the medial system was concerned with the what? It was consist of the chewing and all, but here the corticobulbar fiber of the lateral system are concerned with the movement of expression in the lower part of the face and movement of the tongue. Okay. Now, what is the control of how somatic motor activity is being controlled? How somatic motor activity is being controlled? Now, the voluntary actions and the postural movements are carried out not only by simple contraction or relaxation of the striatal muscle, but also adjustment in the tone. We have discussed it, like two things of voluntary movements and adjustment of the muscle tone. You can't separate or segregate this. This has to be together for a purposeful movement, right? So in the same way, they are carried out not only by the simple relaxation or contraction, but they are also done by the adjustment of the tone in the muscles, the execution of the motor movement, the planning of the movement, the coordination of in the different muscles for that movement to occur, and the adjustment of the movement of the body. They are all under influence of different parts of the nervous system, which largely we say that it is constitutes the somatic motor system. Okay. Now we can organize this the whole broad somatic motor system into three-tier system, which consist of highest level of motor control, middle level of motor control, and lowest level of motor control. What is highest level of motor control? What is highest level of motor control? So the highest level of motor control, as it is the highest, so where it will be? It will of course will be in the cerebral cortex. This motor control will be in the cerebral cortex, and here mostly the idea of any voluntary movements or the plan of any voluntary movements are issued. So the generation of the idea of the voluntary movement or the plan of the voluntary movement, or the command, issuing of the command of the voluntary movement, these all are generated in the cerebral cortex, and that's why it is known as the higher level of motor control, the cerebral cortex. What is middle level of motor control? So middle level of motor control is constituted in the below the cortex, that is the subcortical centers. And when we say subcortical center, the part of the CNS that represent in the subcortical region is basal ganglia, brainstem nuclei, and cerebellum. So these are the middle level of motor. So what is actually role of this middle level of the motor control? The middle level of motor control generally supervise the order given by the highest level according to the situation, according to the inputs from your environments, like visual input, like proprioception in your joint, from that input. So whatever input is there, it will go to the cerebellum and all, basal ganglia and all, and then it will analyze the order given by the upper motor cortex. It will analyze, and if needed, they will modify it. Okay, they will coordinate it, and they will two movements are there, and suppose they are not coordinated, not better planned, so that movement will not be a purposeful movement. So for better coordination, so my very fine movements you need to consult with the basal ganglia, cerebellum, and after the modification if needed, they will again send the message to the cortex, and from the cortex final pathway will come to the via the descending tracts. So the middle level of motor system, it's subcortical, consists of basal ganglia, brainstem, cerebellum, and it is concerned with the developing and perfecting each motor program or sub-program for bringing out a motor act. It also supervises the implementation of a motor program. Now, what is lowest level of motor control? Lowest level of motor control is exerted by the cranial nerve nuclei in the brainstem and the spinal cord. What we called before as a lower motor neuron, what we called before as a alpha motor neuron. So the motor neuron that is present in at the spinal level or the brainstem level, that are the lowest level of motor control. Okay, and that we can call it a final common pathway also. What is the role of sensory receptor in motor activity? So can you pause and can you imagine, is there any role of it, or should there be any role of sensory receptor in motor control activity? Yes or no? Think. Yes, very much important, because when you are running, it's not you're blind and running, you are opening your eyes and running. That means you are seeing, your visual receptor is active. When you are running, your joints, they receive the proprioception, the vibration, the joint position sense, and they will send it to the central nervous system. So all these inputs are necessary for a proper planning of the movement. Okay, suppose you do a motor activity the first time, like you walk, and your posture was such that you fall on the ground. Okay, now this information, the original posture, the falling on the ground, the sensation what has been received, this will go to the basal ganglia, and they will tell it that it has been a mess. The walking or the running was a mess. We have the body has fallen down. So what it will do, the next time the same impulse is coming for the running, it will modify that or correct that the impulse, the motor impulse from the cerebral cortex, or the plan or the order, and it will renovate it, modify it, and again send it to the cerebral cortex, and then the movement will occur. Then there will be, this is also known as training. This is also known as training, learning by training. So feedback, these sensory receptors they give the feedback signal to the central nervous system from what? From proprioceptors muscles, joints, skin. Other sensory receptors are also used to adjust the motor commands during the somatic motor activity. Plan of study of somatic motor system. How we can study this somatic motor system? Okay, so we have to study in 4 different topics. What are the components of somatic motor control system? Just highest and middle and lower level, that we will study. We will study about the effector organ, and our effector organ in the motor system is nothing but skeletal muscle. We will study about reflexes, postural reflexes. We will study about the regulation of posture and equilibrium. Right? So first of all, we need to know the components of the somatic system. So you can see the highest level, it is the cerebral cortex, and it consists of what? Motor cortex, premotor cortex, and the cortical association area. This is the highest level of the somatic motor system, cerebral cortex. We have then middle level of somatic motor system, and that we can also say subcortical centers, and that includes basal ganglia, cerebellum, and subcortical nuclei, brainstem nuclei. Okay. Then we have lowest level of spinal cord, that is the brainstem and spinal cord. Here brainstem is not given, so brainstem and the spinal cord are the lowest. Brainstem nuclei, lower motor nuclei in the brainstem, lower motor nuclei in the spinal cord, and then the muscle fiber. Okay. Receptors, all these are the lowest level of the somatic motor system. So here let's discuss the highest level of motor control. In this we have studied that cerebral cortex is the main organ that is involved at the highest level of motor control. This motor cortex have area of motor cortex and two descending pathways. So we have cerebral cortical area and two descending pathways. Let's study what are the cerebral cortex area, motor cortex area. तो सबसे पहले there will be area of motor cortex, primary motor cortex, premotor cortex, and supplementary motor cortex. You can see the figure here. We have primary motor cortex. So this is the primary motor cortex. You have the primary motor cortex. This primary motor cortex is also known as Brodmann area number 4. It is located in the frontal lobe. This whole is the frontal lobe. Okay, and it is present within the precentral gyrus. So central sulcus is there, and anterior to the central sulcus there is a elevation that is known as gyrus, that is known as precentral gyrus, and within this precentral gyrus anatomically this primary motor area number 4, Brodmann area number 4 is present. It is somatotopically organized. It is organized in terms of movements and not individual muscles. Okay, it is organized in terms of movement. Okay, if you stimulate certain part of the area number 4, it will cause movement in the opposite half of body. So this is area number 4, primary motor cortex. Just anterior to this area number 4, just anterior to this area number 4, just anterior to it we have area number 6, 8, 44 and 45 is here. 44 and 45 is there. It's not given here. You will see, we have to see the next figure. 44 and 45, 6 and 8. This 6, 8, 44 and 45. This constitutes area which is just anterior to the primary motor area, area number 4, and this is known as premotor cortex. You can see this is known as premotor cortex. So it consists of area number 6, area number 8, and area number 44 and 45. Then we have supplementary motor cortex. Supplementary motor cortex is nothing but it is the medial, medial surface of the frontal lobe. This whole is the frontal lobe. Okay, and the medial surface is known as supplementary motor cortex. Now, what is the functional role of the motor cortex in the control of voluntary movement? Supplementary motor cortex is responsible. So yes, these three motor system you have understood. The area you understood, the primary motor, anterior to it is the premotor, and then you have the supplementary motor. Now let's study the different motor area. First we will study the supplementary motor cortex, and we know the supplementary cortex is nothing but a medial surface of the of the frontal lobe. This is used for generating the idea. The supplementary motor cortex is used to generate the idea. Okay. This is used for generating the idea. Idea of the movement. There it plans the movement. Okay. Lateral cerebellum and basal ganglia are also involved in planning and programming of the movement. So I think the basal ganglia had been taught by Neera madam, and she must have taught you that it's important. The cerebellum and basal ganglia both are important in planning and programming the movement. This is one of the major function of the basal ganglia and cerebellum. So along with that, supplementary motor cortex, it generate the idea and also plan the movement along with these two, cerebellum and basal ganglia. This is evidence from the fact that all these area involved in planning, so electrical activity before the primary motor cortex. So primary motor cortex के order देने से पहले ही, even we think of this, like we are not actually moving, but we just think of the movement. We plan for the movement. Then three areas in the brain, they continue to show activity, and these are supplementary motor cortex, these are lateral cerebellum and basal ganglia. So that way we have come to conclusion that okay, these three are important in planning and programming the movement. Basal ganglia play their cognitive role. If you have read the direct loop of the in the basal ganglia, there were two loops. One is for caudate loop and one is putamen loop. The caudate loop is mainly for the cognitive function, thinking function, and actual motor loop is the putamen loop. Okay, you must have studied these both loop. तो बेसल गैंग्लिया प्ले देयर कॉग्निटिव रोल थ्रू द कॉर्डेट लूप. कैसे? मोटर कॉर्टेक्स से कहाँ जाएगा? कॉर्टेक्स से कॉर्डेट न्यूक्लियस में, कॉर्डेट न्यूक्लियस से थैलेमस में, थैलेमस से फिर से कॉर्टेक्स में. दिस द लूप विच हेल्प्स इन कॉग्निटिव रोल, थिंकिंग रोल. ओके, now we come to another area, motor area, after supplementary, primary motor area. Now primary motor area, we know which area number? It is the area number 4. Primary motor area number 4. It is just anterior to the central sulcus in the, what we have studied, anterior to the central sulcus is what guide us? The premotor guide us, right? So primary motor cortex is present there in area number 4, Brodmann area number 4. Program patterns of the motor neurons are activated in the motor cortex. Okay, so whatever the pattern is generated for actual movement, and this pattern is generated for which? For what? For motor neurons. Motor neurons present where? In the brainstem. Motor neuron present where? In the spinal cord. And for these motor neurons, whatever patterns are there, they are activated in the motor cortex. Excitation of the upper motor neuron in the motor cortex is transferred in a large part via which tract? Descending tract? Via corticospinal tract to the spinal cord and corresponding corticobulbar tract to the motor neuron in the brainstem. And this is a site where your lower motor neuron are activated, and after lower motor neuron are activated, alpha motor neuron, they will cause the effector muscle to do a voluntary movement. Then we come to another, the third cortex, that is the premotor cortex. We have said that it consists of, it is just anterior to the area number 4 or the primary motor cortex, and it consists of 4 areas: area number 6, area number 8, area number 44 and area number 45. So area number 6, these coordinates the proximal and the axial muscle during a motor movement. Okay, the axis of the body and the proximal muscle, they are controlled in area number 6. Therefore, it is involved in integration of the voluntary movement. It ensures that skill movements are accurate and smooth. So there are 2-3 functions that you should know. It is important for the skill movements, for the accurateness of the skill movements, integration of the voluntary movement, and proximal and axial muscle control. Area number 8. This is the frontal eye field. It is involved in the coordination of the eye movements. So the eye movement, the fine eye movements are controlled by the area number 8. Area number 44 and 45, they are known as Broca's motor speech area, especially in the dominant hemisphere. And when we say a right-handed person, for a right-handed person, dominant hemisphere is the left hemisphere of the cerebral cortex. Okay, they are engaged in the coordination of the activity of the musculature involved in speech. So during you give your speech, so many of your facial muscle have to be calibrated, coordinated. Tongue should be coordinated. Okay, lips should be coordinated, facial muscles should be coordinated. So that is the activation of the vocal cord is there for the speech formation, but simultaneously you need to have coordinated movement of the mouth, tongue, lips, so that you do the proper, when we say the vocal speech, it's not only the vocal cord, it is also the movement of the tongue, your lips and facial movement that aids to the speech. Okay, now there is another 2 area which is which we can discuss here, is a head rotation area, and they are very much associated with area number 8, that is a frontal eye field, and they are linked to the 8 because it serves to enable the movement of the head correlated with the eye movements. So eye movement, you can sometimes you see when we are looking at one side. Suppose you're looking in the front and you suppose turn laterally, okay, turn your head laterally, you will see some eye movements, and that is why this there is a head rotation area that will be associated with the frontal eye field, and according to the motion of the eyeball rotation, okay, it will direct your head towards left, right. The area related to the control with the fine movements of the hand is located within the premotor cortex, okay, just anterior to the hand region of area 4. With this, if this area is damaged, the muscle of the hand is not paralyzed, okay, but certain movements are lost. It is known as motor apraxia. So motor apraxia is always due to the premotor cortex के डैमेज से. ये क्वेश्चन बहुत बार पीजी एंट्रेंस एग्जाम में आ चुका है. ठीक है, what is motor apraxia? Muscle is not paralyzed, but your certain movements, some skillful movement are lost. It is known as motor apraxia due to the damage of the this premotor cortex, you can say, or area related to the control of fine movements of the hand. Okay. Okay, we will stop here, right? And in the next class we will read the descending motor pathway, and not fully because it must have been taught. Corticospinal fiber is not my part, but we will just somehow touch this thing, because this is going to be an important concept when you study the postural and the tone. So these are all the introductions that we have studied. Okay, so in the next class we will read about the descending motor pathway, the pyramidal, extrapyramidal and all, and corticobulbar pathway also. Okay, thank you so much.